Imagine you walked into a store, filled your cart, and then left without paying. That's what we've done with nature. For centuries, ecosystems have provided us with clean air, healthy soils, and fresh water for free. But now the invoice has arrived. The question is, who will pay the bill? I've dedicated my life to protecting the environment and supporting the amazing people who steward our planet's most valuable resources. From my childhood in Canada, growing up surrounded by forests and lakes, to my PhD and my career directing programs on sustainable agriculture, water, and resilience across more than 50 countries from the Amazon to the Sahel, I've seen firsthand the wonders of nature. But I've also seen the fragility of ecosystems when they're mismanaged. When our son was born, we wanted to instill the same deep connection in nature in him. But he quickly noticed what many of us forget or choose to ignore. We only seem to value nature when it's dead. We value trees when they're cut, or fish when they're on a plate, not when they're swimming freely. This disconnect, our failure to value ecosystems when they're alive and healthy, is costing us dearly. Right now, 1 million species are at risk of extinction. Up to 75% of the Earth's land area is substantially degraded. And the emissions from 53% of our fossil fuel use and land use change are soaked up by nature. Indeed, it's our ocean, trees, and ecosystems that are critical to keeping us within planetary boundaries. Our forests are shrinking, our ocean is warming, our coral reefs are dying, and our pollinators are disappearing. If we continue on this path, we'll face devastating consequences. By 2030, biodiversity loss is estimated to cost the global economy $2.7 trillion annually. That's in a short 5 years' time. The climate crisis itself is a symptom of this deeper problem, our failure to properly value nature. Saving nature isn't just about saving cute pandas. It's about saving ourselves. But there's an enormous gap in biodiversity protection, estimated at $711 billion per year. Ecosystems are complex, much more than the sum of their parts. A teaspoon of soil from the Amazon contains more microbes than there are people on the planet. Trees are connected by underground fungal networks known as the Wood Wide Web that allows them to communicate, to share nutrients, and warn each other of threats. We need to stop forcing people to choose between cutting down a tree for income or saving it and going hungry. The solution lies in more than pricing nature. It lies in incentivizing communities, indigenous groups, and landlords to protect ecosystems and giving them fair rewards for their efforts. This means creating trusted markets that reward preservation over exploitation. To get to these markets, we need to leverage technology and shift our approach. Let's start with the tech. Advances in technology are revolutionizing our ability to monitor ecosystem health in real time. Tools like AI, LiDAR, and bioacoustics can measure species density and forest health. AI-powered satellites can measure forest carbon and detect deforestation from miles above. Environmental DNA sampling can detect an endangered species from a single sample. And blockchain technology can enable transparent, tamper-proof, and traceable assets and payments. By combining technology with local knowledge, we can create trustworthy markets that distribute funds directly to people on the ground. For example, smart contracts can put money into digital wallets accessible by indigenous and community groups. And now on to markets. Let's be honest, our efforts to date with environmental markets haven't been great. The voluntary carbon market, for example, has been fraught with greenwashing and even fraud. It's often about credits and debits and trading, not maintaining value. But just because the first version of our markets hasn't worked perfectly doesn't remove the need to find a way for businesses and consumers to pay for nature's services. There is a solution. What if we could take these advances in technology and match them up with nature's needs? What if we could create a trustworthy service that customers and companies were happy to pay for? What if we looked at something more holistic than just carbon? Let's call this solution a biodiversity resilience asset. And let's focus on that word asset just for a moment. Something that holds value and maintains value for its owner. So how do we get to these assets? First, you use trusted third-party data providers to collect ground-up data. You look at soil health like nitrogen, phosphorus. You look at biodiversity health. You use environmental DNA, you use camera traps. And you take that ground-up data and you pair it with space-down data, the latest in remote sensing. Then you bring this data together as an asset. This asset represents the ecosystem services of the land, its water, its climate regulation, its biodiversity health, and the resilience building of the people who are protecting it. What are their needs linked to the Sustainable Development Goals? Resilience is about allowing those people and supporting them to thrive under uncertainty. And every asset is also a ton of carbon, because nature is amazing at sequestering carbon. And you put all this data and put it in tamper-proof technology that allows it to become traceable and transparent. And then imagine if this asset was sold to corporate leaders on net zero and nature-positive transitions, but only on a performance-delivered basis. So they only paid for the verifiable ecosystem services linked to that piece of land. And then, instead of taking the money and running away with it, imagine if we delivered a minimum of 75% of the funds down to the ground. What if we increased that to 90%? This would provide assurance for the purchasers and allow them to recognize nature as an essential infrastructure to their business's long-term success. A really cool feature of this asset is that we can fractionalize it. So we can take a small piece of it, maybe 1/100th of an asset or 1,000th of an asset, and put it in a pair of shoes or put it onto a cup of coffee and put it onto a new bank account. And consumers could traceably, verifiably see how their purchase is protecting a few square centimeters of land in the Amazon and those ecosystem services and the resilience building of those people, or supporting a regenerative ag farmer. We need to stop our green wishing. We need to build a market based on trust and performance. We have the tools and technology to act as the cashier for the planet. These assets can be the invoice. These assets are working right now, like in sustainable cacao programs. People don't want to cut down trees and do illegal cattle ranching just to scrape by. They want to be fairly rewarded for their sustainable practices. And consumers want trust and assurity that their payments are making a difference. Through this solution, companies unlock new value and secure their future. Farmers and communities are empowered through sustainable practices. And each purchase becomes a powerful act of support for the planet. A win for companies, a win for nature's guardians, and a win for consumers who want a better world. What happens if we succeed? Companies, consumers, and workers become more resilient. Healthy forests and wetlands protect us and prevent billions of dollars in damage from floods and droughts. Communities and indigenous groups are fairly rewarded for the protection of these valuable resources, and these resources thrive. We have to shift our thinking. Our wealth doesn't come from living on the planet, it comes from living from it. The wood in the chairs, the batteries in our phones, the food we eat, our medicines. Why is your business successful? It's because nature provides $44 trillion worth of ecosystem services annually for free. There is ample evidence that people care about nature. We need responsible corporate citizens who confidently champion nature regardless of political or regulatory pressures. The invoice for our use of nature is here. The question is no longer if we will pay, it's how we will pay. Do we wait for ecosystems to collapse and we all pay a devastating price? Or do we proactively invest in the solutions we have now? The invoice for nature has arrived. Let's pay it before we can't afford to. Thank you.